Okay, children, now we will start with a story called Old Man at the Bridge, which is given to you on page number 48 of your textbook. I ask everyone to start with page number 48 of your textbook. The story is given here, Old Man at the Bridge by Ernest Hemingway. Before starting the story, that we read about the background of the story and about something about the writer Ernest Hemingway. See, this is given to you on page number 47. Ernest Miller Hemingway is the writer full name. Ernest Miller Hemingway was an American novelist, short story writer and journalist whose simple and understated writing was a strong influence on 20th century fiction. Who was he? He was an American novelist, short story writer and a journalist also. One of the shortest of Ernest Hemingway's short stories, Old Man at the Bridge, is based upon an incident that took place during an Easter Sunday stopover at the Ebro River while Hemingway was a war correspondent, means a reporter covering the Spanish Civil War. It means the background of the story was Spanish Civil War. Okay, and that time this Hemingway was a writer, a reporter actually, and who had covered up this war and happened to meet this an old man at the bridge and indulged in a conversation which made him to write a story. Now here the old man at the bridge demonstrates the power of narrative art. This story is in a narrative art, actually in a conversation. Hemingway takes a small ordinary detail in situation and through the art of storytelling transforms it into a powerful story about the tragedy of war. See, these wars cause large-scale destruction. It takes many lives. It makes people to leave their native places and run for their lives. So same thing happens here in the story with the old man. The old man becomes a symbol of countless civilian victims of war, those without politics. The old man had nothing to do with the politics. He was not a political figure. He had no issues with the political situations at that moment, but he suffered a lot. Displaced, disoriented, and alone, he is faced with the inevitability of death. Even he also had to face inevitability of death that cannot be kept aside. Now see, but here, old man at the bridge. This old man was of 76 years. This story was, based on Spanish Civil War, which began in 1936 and ended in 1939. This Ernest Hemingway was a reporter who had covered up this Spanish Civil War and happened to meet this old man at the bridge. Are you clear? This old man, beta, he had to leave his native country, native city called San Carlos, and sat near the bridge. He had traveled a long distance. In the age of 76, one cannot travel much. When he reached near the bridge, he was quite exhausted. He sat there for a long time, didn't feel like to move ahead. Now what happened? The narrator, a soldier, here but a soul in the story, a soldier was appointed near the bridge to evacuate the place, to keep the people in a safer place. He asked everyone to go quickly so that they should be dropped in the safer places. But this old man did not move. The narrator had a good conversation with this old man and came to know about his loneliness. See, but here an old man with steel-rimmed spectacles and very dusty clothes sat by the side of the road. An old man who had worn steel-rimmed spectacles, dusty clothes because he had traveled a long distance. And sat by the side of the road to get some rest. There was a pontoon bridge. Pontoon, but I means a temporary bridge across the river, and carts, trucks, men, women, and children were crossing it. Who were crossing here? Carts, trucks, men, women, and children were crossing the bridge to keep their life safe. The mule-drawn carts staggered. The carts drawn by the mules, animals staggered, stopped there, moving with uneasy steps. Staggered up the steep bank from the bridge, because they have to climb up the steep bank from the bridge, with the soldiers helping push against the spokes of the wheels. You know what happened here? Some carts drawn by the mules were unable to climb up the slope, so the soldiers were helping those carts to move ahead. The trucks ground up. The trucks were ready. The trucks ground up and away, heading out of it all, and the peasants plodded along in the ankle-deep dust. Now the trucks were ready. The trucks were ready, going towards, and the peasants were moving unsteadily. The peasants were moving unsteadily along the ankle-deep dust. They were submerged in ankle-deep dust. But the old man sat there without moving. He was too tired to go any farther. Are you clear? The old man was still there, unable to move ahead. It was my business to cross the bridge. Now, it was my business. Here, my refers to the narrator, the soldier who was, appointed there to evacuate the place. It was my business to cross the bridge, explore the bridgehead beyond, and find out to what point the enemy had advanced. Now, this narrator, the soldier, was appointed there to evacuate the place and keep an eye on the enemy. Where had they reached? I did this and returned over the bridge. The narrator did his work, returned over the bridge. There now were not so many carts now. All the carts had gone almost. Very few people on foot, but the old man was still there. Where do you come from? I asked him. Where do you come from? I asked him. He's here, soldier, the narrator. I asked him, the narrator asked him where he came from. From San Carlos. He said, the old man said he had come from San Carlos, a famous city of France, and smiled. That was his native town. Actually, the San Carlos was a native town of the old man, so it gave him pleasure to mention it, and he smiled. People feel happy when they mention to the native places. We are so attached to our native places. I was taking care of animals, he explained. The old man said that he was taking care of animals. Here we came to know the old man was all alone. He had no one in his life except these animals. Oh, I said, not quite understanding. Oh, I said, who is it here? The narrator said. The narrator did not pay much attention to the talks of the old man, as he was busy in watching the movements going near the bridge. Yes, he said, I stayed, you see, taking care of animals. I was the last one to leave the town of San Carlos. Who was the last one to leave San Carlos? The old man. He had unwillingly left a place called San Carlos. He did not look like a shepherd or not a herdsman, and I looked at his black dusty clothes and his grey dusty face. The old man was not actually a shepherd who actually takes care of sheep and goat, or not a herdsman, because he was in a fine clothes, but undoubtedly the clothes were dusty. So here I looked at his black dusty clothes and his grey dusty face and his steel-rimmed spectacles, and said, what animals were they? Various animals, he said, and shook his head. I had to leave them. Are you clear, beta? We came to know that the old man was taking care of various animals. He was kept thinking about the animals which were left behind Anyhow, the old man was able to reach near the pontoon bridge. He was forced to leave the place, and he came and traveled a long distance, sat near the bridge, but was unable to, worrying about, was kept on thinking about his animals.